turn it over to Ron Sedman, the owner and CEO of Management One, and he's going to talk to us on the 5 quadrants of owning your rental property. Ron?
I say it's great to be back with you. Before I get into the 5 major quadrants or components of a rental property, one must look at the entire picture if you're going to play and stay in the game of rental property. Okay, I want to touch on a few things I and over 4,000 of my amazing clients have experienced in an unbelievable 36 years that we've been together. As landlords, we always have a tendency to focus what's in front of us. And on a rental property, that is normally maintenance and vacancy. What we all hate is repairs, correct? We all hate them. I hate them. I don't like repairs either. But we found the main reason landlords hate them is because they don't have money set aside to pay for them. And that causes a lot of stress and inconvenience. And it causes a lot of stress on the family and the family's budget when these unexpected things come up. And also a lot of times landlords have a hard time wrapping their head around why renters don't care for their property like we would. And quite simply, I have the answer to that. And it's called rent-a-car mentality. In other words, residents look and take care of our properties like we all drive a rent-a-car. Now, the last time, basically, all of you rented a car, and I know all of you have, okay, I want to ask you a question. Before you took it back to the rental dealership, did you take it through the car wash, making sure it was perfect? And also, when you went to the supermarket or Walmart, did you make sure you parked it out away from all the other cars so nobody would give you a door ding? And I think I know the answer to that question. The answer is none of us do, right? Okay. And so if you just understand that, it helps us wrap our head around how residents take care of your property. Okay. So they're not going to take care as well as you do. Okay. But at the end of the day, you're going to be able to do very well on it, which you're going to see in just a few moments here as we get into the presentation. So it's important for you to not only keep the property or properties that you have, and it's also important that you buy more property so you can retire in style. So we got to look at the whole picture, or as I refer to it, as looking at the entire picture of the Mona Lisa, because you can't really appreciate the art of the Mona Lisa if all you see is the corner of the Mona Lisa, right? There's no way you can. So believe it or not, I actually have the answer to how to always have money for maintenance repairs and feel awesome as well about the wealth that you're creating. So I'll get back to that in a few minutes, but for right now, we're going to move right into the 5 quadrants as far as of a rental property. So let me go in here and I am ready to go. Okay, since I am presenting now. Okay, great. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about. There's other things in a rental property that you have write-offs and stuff, interest, but we're not going to talk about that tonight. That's for another conversation. But we're going to talk about depreciation. We're going to talk about the reduction of your principal on your loan. We're going to talk about rent increases. We're going to talk about the appreciation as your property goes up in value. And we're also going to be talking about as far as maintenance repairs. So let's get right into depreciation and how that works out. Okay, basically, you can depreciate your rental property, excluding the land, over 27 and a half years. So if you have a 400,000 property, minus the land value, which most of them figure about 25%, you'd be able to write off 300,000 over 27 and a half years, or about $11,000 each year. Now, if you're in a 25% tax bracket, which I'm being very nice here because most of you are well over that, okay, you're going to save approximately $2,700 a year in income taxes that you would have had to pay had you not owned that rental property. And a lot of us forget about that. But that $2,700, it kind of gets muddled in with your personal tax return. And you just say, well, I guess I'm paying less taxes. Well, you are, okay? But it is very, very significant is when it comes to the depreciation, okay? Now, the next item we're going to talk about, because these first 2 are pretty simple, and then we'll get into the weeds a little bit more on the rent increases. On a $300,000 loan at 4%, your payment's going to be about $1,432. However, $432 of that is going to pay down your principal. So it's kind of like a forced savings account, okay? And this will increase actually every month. But for easy figuring, let's just say it was $450 a month times 12 months. That's another $5,400 a year you have going into a savings account because basically as time goes on, that resident is going to pay that property off. So we have to really look at those two factors and note that, yes, you can't use that money right now like you can the depreciation, because you're going to get it back on your tax return, but it's real money. Let's move on. Very, popular topic, and that's called rent increases. Okay, here's the big myth. Okay, and before I say that, 95% of landlords who manage their own properties never raise the rent, and if they do, they raise it about every 5 years, and they normally raise it excessively. Okay, so this is going to shock you, but basically, how many people move because you raise the rent? And the answer is 7%, according to Buildium, and that's if you raise the rent moderately, between 2 to 5%. Even with rent control, you can go higher than 5%, in some cases 7 or 8, depending on the city or the county that you're in. So at 2 to 5% is nothing as far as to go ahead and be able to raise the rent. Okay, so then people ask, well, what is the biggest reason they move? Okay, and the biggest reason they move is maintenance. Maintenance, repairs, and improvements not done timely or not done at all. So if you look at these numbers, because maintenance is not taken care of, residents move 5 times more than they do if you increase their rent. Okay, and that's why raising rent is a myth out there, that they will leave you, and you will see here in just a second where they definitely do not leave you. And we've experienced this ourselves. A lot of management companies go with that myth. We've proved it wrong over the last 36 years. Okay, so now let's look at, if we raise rent just a minimum of $50 a month each year consecutively, over 6 years, okay, which is only a 2.5% increase on a $2,000 rent. How much money would you have, okay, at the end of that 6 years? Because most people think, well, why do I even want to bother with it? It's only like $50, okay? Well, here's why, okay? Because at the end of 6 years, you're going to have a mind-blowing $12,600 in your account. Because here's what happens is compounding interest. The first year, and I'm not going to get it too far in the weeds, but I want to touch on this, just a couple of them. If you look at there, we got $50. So the first year, 50 times 12 is 600. The next year, we raise it another 50. So the second year, we make 1,200 plus 600 a year before. Now we have 1,800. The third year alone, at 150 times 12, we make another 1,800. So just in 3 years, we're up to $3,600 that quick. So if you look at the bottom, it's $12,600. And here's why. Because the maintenance is coming. Residents are not going to take care of your property as well as you are. They're going to want more repairs on repairs you would normally fix. Okay, but they're not going to do that. But it's okay. The real challenge of it is understanding and looking at the whole picture. It's not the fact that you have repairs. It's the fact that we got to dig the well before we need the water. Okay, and that's what we're doing here. Okay, so let me go to the next one. Okay, does it work? Oh boy, does it. Okay, here's a true story. Okay, Whispering Winds, Moreno Valley, California. The rent started at $700 29 years ago in 1991. Okay, the resident just moved out in 2020. The rent was $1,635. And yes, the same resident was there for 29 years. I know it's hard to believe, but we have verification and we can definitely back up. Okay. And now you're asking, well, did you ever raise the rent? They probably stayed because you never raised the rent. Negative. The average rent increase was $32 a year each year for 29 years. And again, most of you are thinking, why bother for $32 a year? I mean, each year for a month. I mean, why even bother writing up the paperwork? Well, here's why. Because if you do that, for which they did for every year for 29 years, that's $166,000 that you have in your pocket. Okay? And again, residents don't leave because you raise their rent moderately. They leave because you don't take care of them, you don't give them good service, and you don't take care of repairs, and you don't improve the property. That's why residents leave. 5 times greater than if you would have raised the rent. Okay. Now all this seems pretty good, right? Okay. It gets better. Okay. It gets a lot better. Okay. The property was purchased in 1991 for $89,000. Okay. It just sold through Crisia, okay, for an astounding $385,000, 4 times more than what it was purchased for back in 1991. Now, and it gets better from here, okay? The resident paid the mortgage off for the owner with no vacancy and no rehab of the property in 29 years. Now, I know this is an exceptional case, but my point is tonight is that you can raise rents and you can raise them every year and your residents will not leave. We have a lot of residents that have been with us 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Okay, this isn't just one. We have a lot of them, okay? And last, these owners, look at the recap here. They got $166,000 in increase in rents. Their house went up 4 times. They made $385,000. The resident paid off the mortgage. And while all this is going on, they had a hassle-free experience because management one took the calls in the middle of the night when the toilet wasn't working, not the owner. And this is a perfect storm, but it happens again and again and again. You know, so raising rents, okay. Let's talk about appreciation of your property. Okay, by using the power of leverage, you really make out on this. Okay, we all do. If you buy a rental property and put down 25% on 100 or 100,000, I should say, on a $400,000 property you're buying, basically what it is you're going to make it on the 400 on the appreciation. But let me regress here for a second. The appreciation rate for the last 12 months in California has been 11.9%, or for easy figuring, let's say 12%. Is everybody okay with that? All right. So if you could make 12% on that 100,000, which you can't, okay, you're going to be lucky to get 2 in the bank, okay, on $100,000. But if you could, you would make 12,000 appreciation on the 100,000. But because you bought a property and leveraged it, you're making 12% on 400,000, or you would have made an astonishing $48,000 in appreciation on just that year alone. Now, some of you on the call today, you know, you've seen that in your own home prices. You can go on Zillow, you can see the rise in values and stuff. Okay, but this gets pretty exciting. But let's look at this. Even if it was half of that, would we not still be totally excited if it was only 24,000? Okay, in a year. Okay, and so the appreciation of your property is just amazing. But we forget about these things, and because we mainly focus on one area, and that is maintenance. Okay, now maintenance repairs is part of the 5 quadrants, and it what makes it all work. Without maintenance, you can't have the other 4 amazing benefits, which you've seen how amazing they are. So we focus all our attention on maintenance, and it's what we all hate most, of course, okay? So to avoid vacancies, you must improve your property and give it a resident a reason to stay. You have to do that, okay? For your property to appreciate, you must do improvements, outside and inside, okay? So let me share with you some statistics here. Out of 5,200 work orders, yes, we do a lot of work orders at Management One. Okay, from 2019 to 2020, the average general maintenance, now I'm talking about faucets, fences, sprinklers, appliances, etc., it takes to run a single family home property is about $1,500 a year, or about $125 a month on average. Now, in some cases, you might go 2 years and only have 1 repair, and then in the 3rd year, you get hit with $3,000. Okay, but this is the average. And so what does this mean? That means you have to prepare for it. Okay, you don't want it to become unexpected and go, well, wait a minute. When I lived in the property, I didn't have all these repairs. Exactly. Now we're back to rent-a-car mentality, right? They want more service, okay, than you want it, okay? But look at the benefits I just pointed out in the other 4 quadrants, okay? So why do landlords hate maintenance? It's basically, ladies and gentlemen, is because landlords have not set up the structure to pay for the maintenance repair. It's just that simple, okay? So let's recap 1 year on these 5 quadrants, just 1 year. So basically, you're going to pay out maintenance, or you're going to lose $1,500, but this is a tax write-off. So by the time you take federal and state, you're only paying basically 60% of that $1,500, not a total of 15 because that's a tax write-off. Okay. Rental increase is $75 a month or $900 each year. And in 6 years, that'll put $19,000 in your pocket. Okay. And the reason we go with 75 today, because that is about the minimum that we raise rents. The reason of it is because if you go on a $2,000 rent, a $75 a month increase is somewhere around 2.5% to 3%, depending on the average rent rate. Depreciation, you're going to pick up $2,700 a year. Reduction in principal, you're picking up another $5,400. And I get it that you can't spend the $5,400 right now, but it's still real. Okay, it's in that forced savings account. Because if you sold that property today, your loan is going to be less than what it was when you bought it, correct? So that's real money, okay? And appreciation, amazing, $48,000, okay? So on a recap, okay, last year, after you take the $1,500 out, you made a whopping $65,000. So, but our focus is where? Our focus is up here on maintenance, and we're not seeing the whole picture. We're not seeing, but now we're seeing the whole picture of the Mona Lisa, right? Because you're seeing how beneficial it is. And so what does that mean? That means I've got to set up a structure so I can go ahead and take care of these maintenance items. So look at here. You have 19,000 in 6 years on rent increases, and you have 16,200 in 6 years on yearly tax savings for over $35,000 alone. Okay. So here's the secret to making it work. Okay. Basically, you must set up, if you don't have one already, and if you do have one, I congratulate you. But if you don't, you set up a separate rental property checking account. It can be a checking savings, and you cannot steal from it. Otherwise, you will innocently squander it away. Let me explain. Okay, we'll say Tyler. Tyler, we have a rental property. He says, go ahead and raise the rent, $75 a month. And all of a sudden, he has the money going into his personal checking account. What happens? Money comes in. He goes, after 3 months,
spend it.
I got some extra money, right, Tyler?
Heck
so
yeah.
he makes an extra trip to Disneyland, or he goes out to another dinner, and you just innocently squander it away. Okay. And then the management company or the resident calls you and says, I need this fixed. It's going to be $400. It's like, where am I going to get this money?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wasn't planning on this. It wasn't $400 when I lived there. We had these conversations tens of thousands of times on 10,000 properties in 36 years. So we know how you're going to feel on this. So here's how it works. You set up a separate rental checking savings account. Okay. And the rent from your resident or management company goes in here automatically every month. Okay. Here's another thing. When you get that tax refund, your CPA can tell you what you save by owning your rental property. And when he tells you that number, you take and write a check from that refund check of $2,700 and you put it into this rental checking savings account, because that is not your money. It is your retirement money in that rental property. And if you do that, you're going to have $16,200 in 6 years just on that alone. Okay. Rent increases, the $75 a month, that's another $19,000. Okay. All mortgage payments are paid out of here, property taxes, insurance, and all repairs are paid from here. Okay. And not only that, your CPA will love you. Okay. Because all you have to do is say, here it is. Here's all my receipts. I printed them out from Management One's portal, and here you go. Figure out how much money I made last year. Okay. And it's a simple deal. So we recommend here, guys, that you put 5 to 10,000 with your rent increases. It should fund your property from then on in most cases. If you have to even start with $100 a day, I don't care. The really important thing is to start and make sure the rent starts going into that account, and make sure that when you get that tax refund, make sure you cut out whatever that money is and you put it back into that account. And if you do that, okay, when somebody calls you and says, I need $15,000 for a roof, you're going to have $35,000 sitting there to pay that $15,000. And you're going to find yourself with long-term residents on those properties, and you're going to be better off as far as for it. The big thing of it is, do not steal from what we call your piggy bank or your rental account. Okay. And we kid with people, but you cannot steal from it. It's like taking money out of your IRA and not paying the tax on it, right? That's a no-no. So look at it as a retirement account, which it really is, because it'll take care of you. And I've had some owners say, well, how about if I end up with like 80, 90,000 in there extra? I go, fine, we'll buy another property. Great idea, right? Okay. And the thing of it is, you'll never have to cancel a vacation. You'll still be able to put your kids through school. It's never going to affect your family life if you follow this policy. Now, how would I know that? Okay, because I've done it. And I own property where other management companies manage my property in other states. Okay. And so I sit where you sit. Okay. And so I understand how you feel when somebody calls up and they need $3,000 for something, or even $250 for something.